Welcome back to the Official Products Reviewer. Today we're doing a deep dive into something that you might not know much about, and that's high-intensity drinking. And I know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
You're thinking, wait, isn't that just binge drinking?
Right.
But trust me, there is a difference. And understanding it could really help you make smarter choices, especially with the holidays coming up.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. High-intensity drinking is kind of like binge drinking's bigger, riskier cousin.
Okay.
And what's fascinating is that it's not just a concern for young people anymore.
Really?
We're seeing a surprising rise in this trend among middle-aged adults.
Hold on, really? Middle-aged adults? That's not what I would have expected.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that more of a college thing?
You'd think so, right?
Yeah.
But the data tells a different story.
Okay.
A study called Monitoring the Future,
Okay.
which has been tracking substance use trends for decades, found something pretty eye-opening.
Yeah.
While high-intensity drinking did go down among 19 to 30-year-olds between 2013 and 2023,
Okay.
it's still incredibly common
Oh, wow.
in their late 20s.
Okay.
Over 1 in 8 people in that age group reported having 10 or more drinks in a single night.
Yeah. That's a lot higher than I would guess. But what about the middle-aged adults you mentioned? What's going on there?
That's the part that really surprised researchers.
Huh.
The same study showed a concerning increase in high-intensity drinking among older adults. It's a complex issue, but some experts believe it could be tied to things like increased stress, changing social norms, or even just trying to keep up with younger generations.
Trying to keep up with the younger generation.
Yeah.
So it's not just about how much someone drinks overall. It's about how much they drink in one sitting.
Yeah.
What exactly is the difference between binge drinking and high-intensity drinking anyway?
Okay, so binge drinking is usually defined as having 4 or 5 drinks within 2 hours.
Okay.
But high-intensity drinking takes it to a whole other level. We're talking 8 or more drinks for women and 10 or more for men in a single sitting.
8 drinks for women, 10 for men.
Yeah.
All at once. That sounds incredibly dangerous.
It is.
Okay.
You see, when you consume that much alcohol in such a short time, your body simply can't process it fast enough.
Wow.
It's like trying to cram a whole week's worth of groceries into a tiny refrigerator. Things are bound to get messy.
Okay, so it overloads your system, but what does that actually mean in terms of health risks?
Well, for starters, it leads to much faster and more intense intoxication.
Okay.
Your blood alcohol concentration, or BAC, spikes rapidly, and that's where things get really dangerous.
Yeah.
High-intensity drinking can push your BAC to 0.2% or even higher.
Wait, 0.2%. Isn't 0.08% the legal limit for driving in most places?
Exactly. So 0.2% is more than double that limit.
Wow.
At that level, you're at a significantly increased risk for accidents, injuries, alcohol poisoning, and even death.
Yeah.
It's no joke.
Okay, so this is serious stuff, and I bet it has long-term effects too, right?
You're absolutely right. Repeated high-intensity drinking puts an enormous strain on your liver and other vital organs.
Right.
And over time, it significantly increases your risk of developing alcohol use disorder.
This is all pretty eye-opening.
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say we all need to be more aware of the risks associated with high-intensity drinking.
Absolutely.
If you want to learn more about this and find resources to help you make informed choices, be sure to check out our links in the video description below.
For sure.
We've got some great products and information that can really help.
Yeah.
Now, before we move on to the broader impacts of high-intensity drinking, let's take a moment to...
let's shift gears a bit and talk about how this type of drinking affects more than just the individual.
Okay.
What's interesting here is that high-intensity drinking can have ripple effects that extend outward, impacting relationships, workplaces, and even public safety.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, if someone is severely intoxicated, their judgment and coordination are going to be impaired.
Right.
That could easily lead to all sorts of problems.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Think about it. Someone who's had 8, 10, or even more drinks in a short span of time might be more likely to get into a car accident.
Oh, wow.
Make risky decisions or even become aggressive or violent.
And the scariest part is they might not even remember it later because of blackouts.
Right.
It's like they're a danger to themselves and others without even realizing it.
You're hitting on a crucial point there.
Yeah.
Addiction expert Keith Humphreys has talked about how high-intensity drinkers are particularly vulnerable to blackouts, which further amplifies the risks involved.
Yeah.
It's not just about the immediate physical dangers, it's about the potential for long-term consequences stemming from actions taken while heavily intoxicated.
It's like a chain reaction where one bad decision can lead to a cascade of negative outcomes.
Yeah.
And it's not just the drinker who suffers, their loved one's friends. And even complete strangers can be affected.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Imagine the impact on families, friendships, and even professional relationships, the emotional toll, the financial burden, the potential for legal trouble.
Yeah.
It's a lot to grapple with.
It's really making me think about how we as a society view alcohol consumption. Do we normalize excessive drinking too much?
Right.
Is there a way to shift the culture towards more responsible choices?
Those are excellent questions.
Yeah.
And I think they're at the heart of addressing this issue.
Okay.
We need to have open and honest conversations about the risks involved,
Yeah.
challenge the glamorization of heavy drinking,
Right.
and create environments where moderation is encouraged and celebrated.
It's like instead of focusing on how much you can drink, we should be talking about how to enjoy alcohol safely and responsibly.
For sure.
Maybe even shift the focus to the social aspects, the company, the experience, rather than just the quantity of drinks consumed.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
It's about finding a balance, respecting your limits.
Right.
And being mindful of the impact your choices have on yourself and those around you.
You know, we've talked a lot about the negative side of things, but are there any potential benefits to moderate alcohol consumption?
Okay.
I've heard some people say a glass of red wine a day is good for your heart, for example.
That's a common belief.
Yeah.
And there has been some research suggesting potential cardiovascular benefits associated with moderate red wine consumption.
Okay.
However, it's important to note that the evidence is mixed.
Okay.
And the potential benefits are likely small and may not outweigh the risks for everyone.
So it's not a free pass to start drinking every day?
Definitely not.
Okay.
The key word here is moderate.
Right.
And even then, it's essential to consult with your doctor to determine if moderate alcohol consumption is appropriate for you.
Okay.
Based on your individual health history and risk factors.
Got it. So if our listeners are feeling overwhelmed by all this information and want to learn more about making healthier choices, where can they go?
We've got you covered.
Okay.
Check out our links in the video description below. There you'll find a treasure trove of resources, including tips for responsible drinking, information on support groups, and even some fantastic products that can help you stay on track.
That's a great resource.
Yeah.
Now let's wrap up this deep dive by discussing... So as we wrap up our deep dive into high-intensity drinking, I'm curious, what's the one thing you really want our listeners to take away from this conversation?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I think the most important takeaway is simply awareness.
Okay.
We've talked about definitions, statistics, risks, and even societal influences.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it comes down to recognizing that high-intensity drinking is a real issue with potentially serious consequences.
Right.
And it's something we need to be talking about more openly and honestly.
I couldn't agree more. And it's not just about talking about it, but also about challenging those social norms that might be contributing to this trend.
Right.
Like you said earlier, sometimes it feels like excessive drinking is almost celebrated or glamorized in our culture.
Absolutely. Whether it's the pressure to keep up with everyone else at a party or the way alcohol is portrayed in movies and TV shows, there are a lot of subtle messages that can influence our behaviors.
Yeah.
We need to be more critical of those messages and create a culture where responsible choices are the norm.
It's like instead of focusing on how much you can drink, we should be celebrating the quality of the experience.
For sure.
Enjoying a drink or two in a safe and responsible way is one thing, but pushing yourself to extreme levels is quite another.
Exactly.
Right.
And if you're ever unsure about how much is too much, it's always better to err on the side of caution.
Okay.
Your health and well-being are priceless.
Well said. And for our listeners who want to learn more about high-intensity drinking, responsible consumption, or just exclusive products that can help you stay on track.
Yes.
Be sure to visit our links in the video description below.
Okay.
We've got some great resources waiting for you there.
It's a treasure trove of information and helpful products, all curated to support your journey towards healthier choices.
And with that, I want to thank you, our amazing listener, for tuning in to the official Product Reviewer podcast.
Yes.
We hope you found this deep dive informative and empowering.
Absolutely.
Remember, knowledge is power, and making informed choices is the key to a healthier and happier you. Until next time.